Good evening. This is Maestro with a 1v1 cast on the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a 1v1 on Calderis Desert. Our first player is going to be Wingblade, playing as the tunneling Ravener Alpha, ranged commander who can put down tunnels that he can use to get around the map very quickly. His opponent is going to be Acey, playing as the Lictor Alpha, infiltrating melee assassin hero who can displace enemy units. Alright then, so we've got a 1v1 match with a Tyrannid mirror match. Tyranids being my least favorite race and one that I have relatively little experience with. This is definitely me a little bit out of my element. It's definitely the race that I have the least knowledge about, to be completely honest. But we are going to see Acey start off with double cap, splitting his units up to... It actually is very interesting how he was able to get his units out so much faster that he was able to capture things faster, capture the victory points faster, so that he's got a 2-0 victory point lead in his favor. Looks like the Hormagaunts from Wingblade are going to be a little... No, these are... Let's see. I clicked on the wrong ones, but the Hormagaunts from Acey were a little overextended. Looks like they were just probably queued up to attempt to cap on this requisition point, which... Wingblade isn't even able to finish because he retreated his own squad of Hormagaunts. So Termagants are going to compete against each other, but this one with the Toxin Sacks is going to win out over that other one. Meanwhile, over here, we've got a 1v1 between the Lictor Alpha and the Ravener Alpha. And I gotta say, head-to-head, the winner of this is definitely going to be the Lictor Alpha by a pretty significant amount. Because just once he gets into melee, he just does quite a bit more damage than the Ravener Alpha, which is just a matter of the fact that the Ravener Alpha is a ranged commander, at least by default. And it looks like he's going into the tunnel, but he's getting out for a little bit. And we see, that was him just kind of bugged out here. I don't really actually feel there's much value for him to be gained by him coming back out and continuing to fight the Lictor Alpha, since he's definitely just not going to win against the Lictor Alpha, and he even risks dying, because he's at a low enough hit points that even if he retreats, he has to be aware of the Flesh Hook in retreat. So here is the support from the Hormagaunts, but this is still dangerous. I mean, the Hormagaunts approach, and here is the Ravener Alpha in retreat. Will we see the Flesh Hook? There it is, and there's the kill. And that is something that has definitely been one of the strengths of the Ravener Alpha, particularly in 1v1 games, his ability to threaten commanders. There we actually saw Flesh Hook used in retreat. Sometimes it can be used when it's not in retreat to displace commanders, but also since it does a lot of single target damage when you have a commander unit in retreat, it can also be used to execute them, and it's especially in 1v1s where you don't have a teammate to revive you, that's actually a pretty big deal. So Wingblade kind of off to a rough start. He also hasn't gotten as many units, whereas Acey now has a squad of Raveners out on the field. Those Raveners going to scare off the Hormagaunts. Wingblade, instead, he's chosen to upgrade his Tier 1 squad, so we do see all Tier 1 squads upgraded, the Adrenal Glands on both Hormagaunts, as well as the Toxin Sacks on the Termagant brood. And if you think about what the cost is for each one of those upgrades, in total, that should actually come pretty close to the cost of a Ravener brood, which explains why Acey actually is able to have that 4th squad, since he didn't get any upgrades on his starting Tier 1 squads. Hormagaunts going to find themselves in melee with the Lictor. Not a good look for the Hormagaunts at the moment. I feel like this needs to be, it just needs to be a retreat, because the longer they stay, the more they just end up bleeding models. And he actually managed to get them out of there right on time, where they actually didn't lose any models at all, so no economic losses whatsoever. Wingblade kind of struggling on the map control, though. It looks like he's getting his natural requisition points decapped. In fact, this one is even maturing in Acey's favor. And it's a 2-0 in favor of Acey, so it's starting to be a significant VP lead, almost 100 victory points in Acey's favor. Termagants are going to try to chase off the other Termagants. Interesting to say that when casting a mirror match, then you say this unit is fighting this unit, and they actually happen to be the same unit. Lictor Alpha will get into melee with the Hormagaunts again, just going to try to oppress them and inflict bleed. That knockback as well going to be pretty effective. And we're starting to see the Hormigaunt models drop. If they wanted to actually fight the Lictor Alpha, they really would have needed to start that sooner when they were at full health. When they're at full health, they can actually possibly threaten to really bring the Lictor Alpha down to low health. Even though Hormigaunts definitely do a lot of damage, I would say it's unlikely that the Hormigaunts would actually win against the Lictor Alpha, because we did see how often the Lictor Alpha was getting those special attacks to knock them down. See, yet another special attack onto the better melee skill of the Lictor Alpha. And here, with these Raveners, we should start to see some generator bashing. I think it would be better to really just focus on the power generators. Okay, he's instead choosing to focus on the Ravener tunnels, but that's allowing time for a response from Wingblade to interrupt this power bash. I think if he had focused more on the power bash with the Raveners, and if he had focused it on the generator, one of these generators would already be dead. And it looks like he might even finish off one of the generators anyway. Raveners are going to burrow to disrupt the Hormigaunts, and that will actually scare off the Hormigaunts. And this is actually starting to look like a one engagement for Acey, which means he might be able to continue the generator bash. Looks like he's going to go for at least this one power generator, committing the Hormigaunts and the Lictor Alpha. And while all this is happening, Wingblade actually has a triple cap against him, so he's got his attention so focused on just trying to protect his power farm that he is not able to regain any control of the map, and it's starting to be a massive victory point lead in favor of Acey. 463 now to 206 with a triple cap against him. We also see that Acey was able to get to tier 2 a little bit faster, and he's going for the Tyrant Guard. And between these two picks, the Gene Stealers and the Tyrant Guard, I actually really like the blind choice by Wingblade. I say blind choice because he doesn't know what Acey's going to get, obviously, because Acey is still getting it. It's not out on the field yet. But I feel like Wingblade actually has the better edge of the blind counter pick, where I feel the Gene Stealers would be very, very effective against the Tyrant Guard. That Tyrant Guard basically being the equivalent of a tier 2 vehicle for the Tyranids, but since it has heavy infantry armor, that means it will actually be very vulnerable to the power melee damage of the Gene Stealers. Though the Gene Stealers do, of course, just have to be careful of the splash damage. Flesh Hook pulling the Ravener in. He's gonna retreat. Luckily for him, Acey did not have his other squad of Hormigaunts in position. Otherwise, that could have even been a kill on the Ravener Alpha. That is just how threatening that Flesh Hook ability can be. So Tyrant Guard is now out. Slow Tyranid Walker unit for tier 2 from tier 2. Hormigaunts upgrading to get the Endless Swarm, but they're going to be in a position where even with the Endless Swarm, they're not going to be able to win this engagement. So here is the Tyrant Guard trying to continue that power bash. Now, luckily for Wingblade, he went for that short tier 1 where he only got he only had 3 squads. But luckily for him, despite having only 3 squads, there wasn't a really significant generator bash, and the Tyrant Guard actually going to go down right there. Didn't even activate Shield Wall. Kind of surprising to see that. Even if he had, well, I don't know. I mean, activating Shield Wall at least gives him a chance to survive. But we definitely saw just how effective the Gene Stealers were against that Tyrant Guard. Tyrant Guard got almost no value. I mean, it basically got, what, 40% of a generator? Certainly hardly any kills. But where Acey is getting value is in the victory point war. Wingblade is actually now down to the double digits. Acey's still got 444, and it's still a 2-0, taking in Acey's favor. Now, Acey has lost some units. He lost the Tyrant Guard. He also lost, I believe, a Hormigaunt Brood, and he's going over to Tier 3. Tier 3 for Acey actually worries me a little bit, because he did just suffer losses. Wingblade is in Tier 2. He's got 4 squads. So this, if anything, the Tier 3 decision, I'm not sure about it. It's actually something that does let Wingblade come back into this game, especially since Wingblade is choosing to stay in Tier 2 and continue to buy Tier 2 units. he's now getting a Tyrant Guard of his own. And whereas Wingblade had a very strong counter available to the Tyrant Guard, Acey doesn't have one at the moment. And he's also not going to have one for a while, given the fact that he's upgrading to Tier 3. Since he's upgrading to Tier 3, he's probably also going to want to just make his next purchase a Tier 3 unit. Otherwise, what's the purpose of rushing Tier 3? At this point, I don't know if you could technically consider it a rush, because he did get one Tier 2 unit. But in any case, we've got victory points 1-1, so at least the victory points are tied, but still with a massive lead for Acey, 444-62. And Acey's going to get his own natural victory point back. Requisition point. Actually, I guess this wouldn't be considered a natural requisition point, even though I called it that at one point. This would be a contested requisition point. But I do feel that Acey has had the better control of it. For the most part, he's just had the better control of the map. So Gene Stealers going to approach. Tyranna Formation actually coming out. That one's got to be from Acey, since he's the one in Tier 3. Now, this Tyranna Formation, it does scare off Wingblade squads, and if anything, I almost feel like the mass retreat is a little unnecessary, because it means he's giving up more of the VPs when he could have possibly stayed and actually started recapping it. So, and he's getting to the point where he doesn't have many VPs left to spare. But now, in spite of the massive victory point lead for Acey, this is actually where Wingblade can come back into this game. Because he's in a position now where he has a massive army advantage. And Acey literally has half the army that Wingblade does. And part of what we're seeing, because the army is so large from Wingblade, he can afford to split some of his units off for capturing, while also engaging at the same time. And Acey's going to really struggle with that. So Acey's now getting a Carnifex. And if anything at the moment, I'm not feeling that worried for Wingblade, just because we see this Carnifex and Wingblade is only in Tier 2. Committing to the Carnifex means that Acey will continue to have a much smaller army. It's still going to be much harder for him to regain control of the map, unless he can possibly get a kill on the Ravener Alpha here, courtesy of that Flesh Hook. Doesn't manage to get the kill with only one Hormigaunt Brute, and this is where it's like, might have really wanted to hold on to that other Hormigaunt squad that he had lost. Because the Flesh Hook into the double Hormagaunts, that could actually be a kill on the commander. Whereas the Flesh Hook into the single squad of Hormagaunts is mostly only resulting in retreats. So here's the Lictor Alpha. He does have the Corrosive Claws. And he's also upgrading to get the Deadly Jump ability. So Warriors, and look at that, a late Warrior purchase from Wingblade, late Warrior purchase to empower his existing army. I'm actually really liking the choices by Wingblade. Despite the extremely rough start, I feel his decision-making in terms of his army purchases is actually better than Wingblade's. He already had the Gene Stealers, and the Gene Stealers had value. The late Warriors is something that actually really empowers the rest of his army, because he still held on to the double Hormagaunts, and he has the Gene Stealers. So getting the melee synapse, well, technically the adrenal glands, which grants the melee synapse, is something that's going to make Wingblade's army very, very scary. And Wingblade right now holding on to a double cap. Only 29 victory points left, but holding on to the double cap. Meanwhile, Acey is committing much of his army. He's basically committing his entire army to simply fighting and chasing Wingblade off the map. So some of Wingblade's squads are still here. We see a Venom Brood got into melee with the Lictor Alpha, trying to chase down the Carnifex, of course, but I think that might have been like a pathing issue where they were kind of just walking right into the Lictor Alpha. Lictor Alpha now has that Deadly Jump ability. Sorry, the Deadly Jump War Gear, which grants him the Assault Leap ability, which, I mean, those abilities might as well be... those two names might as well be synonyms. It's like you don't even need a separate name for the War Gear and the ability. Meanwhile, while I'm talking about that, Ravener Alpha for Wingblade did go down. So that's a small victory for Acey at the moment. but he's also suffering some, well, arguably not so small defeats because Acey's losing squads. He actually lost his other Hormigaunt squad. And Hormigaunt's, despite being a squishy tier 1 squad, they do a lot of damage. So if you do keep them alive, it is kind of worth it to keep them alive in most cases. They do a lot of damage. I believe it's something like 20 DPS per model. That's on a squad with 8 models. That's 160 DPS. Only regular melee, but still, when you... it's just a number that's... it's a high... just the raw numbers are high enough, and it's something that's very threatening. Meanwhile, so Acey's instead focusing on tier 3 purchases to justify the fact that he went to tier 3, but he actually got a Lictor, a tier 3 Lictor. I feel like you don't see that often because your alternatives in tier 3 are Carnifexes and the Swarmlord. I actually think the Swarmlord is fantastic, but it is more expensive than the Carnifex, which is why I feel you often see Carnifexes first. You do have to save up quite a bit for a Swarmlord. Burrow by the Raveners, level 4 Raveners, and that Burrow, along with the tier 3 Lictor being in melee, does scare off Wingblade's army, or at least half of it, because here's the other half of it coming back in to deny any capture attempts by Acey. And this is where Acey's struggling. His army's so small, he needs to commit most of it to fighting. He's not able to get recaps in the time that he forces off some of the units from the opposing army, and then he just ends up having to retreat. So it's still a significant VP lead for Wingblade, but Acey's starting to fall apart. Especially if we see potentially another triple cap threatened by Wingblade. And Wingblade has actually gone to tier 3 himself, but he's not exactly in a position to make a tier 3 purchase. The tier 3 upgrade is almost a little questionable from Wingblade. And I say this because given that he's focused on a very infantry-heavy army with 6 different squads, he's going to be spending a lot in reinforcement costs. It's going to be very difficult for him to actually purchase any tier 3 unit whatsoever. So he might just mostly be getting that so that he can actually use his big stockpile of red to actually execute a Tyranna formation. Anyway, Genestealers are here, in with the Warriors. They're actually doing a lot of damage to the Lictor Alpha, and that's going to be the Lictor Alpha going down. The tier 3 Lictor could be in a lot of trouble as well. Alright, tier 3 Lictor has an assault leap of his own to get out of there. But we see just how incredibly powerful those Genestealers are, especially with the support of the Warrior Brood's melee Synapse. Now that is going to cost Wingblade a lot in reinforcements. He does need to reinforce 4 Genestealers. And in spite of there being times when Wingblade gets forced off, Acey just can't get control back of the map. And he's getting another Carnifex, and I actually really don't like that. You know, to quote an old meme, Baneblades can't cap. And I think that's part of the issue that we're going to have now with Acey getting a second Carnifex. I mean, he does still have 3 capping units that are alive, and if he does revive the Lictor Alpha, he will have a 4th. But he's just running into problems where some of his units get forced off. This is actually getting to the point where Wingblade probably will win this game, in spite of the extremely rough start for him. Triple cap in his favor, 29 to 85, and Acey needs to make... The thing is, he's almost in a checkmate position. It's very much a check position, because he needs to at least get a decap on one and a full cap on the other just to stall out the VPs. And it's almost going to be ticking against him. Tier 3 Lictor is actually almost dead, going in too hard, trying to tie up the Venom Brood. Venom Brood low on hit points, but the Tier 3 Lictor needs to get out of there. That means that's a capping unit that's retreating off the field. The other one, let's see, Raveners, they're busy capping, but he's running out of time. Even if he gets the full cap on this, he's got to run over to get something over here that can cap. Termagants are just... Oh no, they're just idling by a requisition point. Termagant's over here could be the difference. Raveners are going to come over here, but there's so little time. I don't know if this is in time. He's going to start the decap. Like, I think it takes something like 14... Well, actually, no. I was going to say 14 victory points before you can finish a decap, but that also depends on things like whether you have a double cap against you, a single cap. Anyway, this is getting real close. I mean, this basically looks like it for Acey. If he can get one of these victory points in time, he'll actually have a triple cap. But it's so close. 2-1. This victory point's so close, and it doesn't finish. Oh my god. What an ending to quite a game. A little bit short one, but I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night.